You are squinting so hard your eyes are basically closed. It is 11 o'clock at night, the rain is coming down in a fine mist, and you are doing everything right. Both hands on the wheel, mirrors checked, speed reduced, and then it happens. A car comes around the bend in the opposite lane, and those headlights hit your windshield, and the entire glass turns into a solid white wall of blinding light. Not a glare, not a shimmer. A complete, total, vision destroying whiteout that lasts for 2 full seconds while your brain screams and your foot instinctively lifts off the gas because you literally cannot see the road. Your heart is pounding. Your knuckles are white. And the absolute worst part, the part that makes your blood boil when you think about it, is that you cleaned that windshield yesterday. You stood in your driveway with a $15 bottle of premium blue automotive glass cleaner, the one with the sleek label and the bold claim about streak-free crystal clarity. And you sprayed it, and you wiped it, and you buffed it, and when the sunlight hit it, it looked pretty good. And now, in the rain, at night, that exact same windshield is trying to kill you. You did not fail. The product failed. Worse than failed. It actively made the situation more dangerous than if you had done nothing at all. That feeling of rage, that specific combination of fear and betrayal and frustration, is something millions of drivers experience every single night, and almost none of them know the real reason it is happening. The reason is not that you wiped wrong. The reason is not that your wipers are old. The reason is buried inside that blue bottle you paid $15 for. And once you understand what is actually in that liquid and what it does to your glass on a molecular level, you will never buy it again. But first, you need to know about the $1 solution that has been sitting in the beverage aisle of your local supermarket this entire time, completely ignored, waiting for someone to finally connect the dots and hand it to you directly. That solution is plain club soda. A single dollar, sometimes less. A small, green, or clear bottle filled with nothing but carbonated water and a tiny amount of dissolved minerals. No color, no fragrance, no marketing. No bold claims about cutting through grease or leaving a streak-free shine, just bubbles. And those bubbles are going to do something to your windshield that no $15 chemical cocktail has ever been able to replicate because the mechanism is completely different. While ammonia cleaners try to dissolve road film and end up just pushing it around in increasingly fine, greasy layers, club soda attacks the problem physically at the microscopic level, and the results are so immediately visible that the first time you try it, you will sit in your driveway staring at your own windshield in disbelief because the glass looks like it is not even there. Before we get into exactly how it works, you need to understand who has been profiting from your dangerous, blinding, greasy windshield for the last several decades, because this is not an accident. The automotive detailing chemical industry is a multi-billion-dollar machine built on a foundation of products that perpetuate the very problem they claim to solve. Think about how blue glass cleaner is sold. It is always blue. Why is it blue? Glass is not blue. Clean glass is not blue. There is no functional ingredient that requires the liquid to be blue. It is blue because blue looks clean, because blue looks like water, because the color itself is a psychological signal engineered to make you reach for the bottle when you are standing in the automotive aisle feeling overwhelmed by choices. That blue dye costs them fractions of a penny, and it sells millions of units because it has trained an entire generation of car owners to associate that specific color with cleanliness. Now pair the blue dye with ammonia. Ammonia is cheap. Ammonia is industrial grade. Ammonia is the same ingredient in discount household glass cleaner, diluted to roughly the same concentration, put into a darker bottle with a sportier label, and marked up 500% because it says automotive grade on the front. Ammonia does cut through some types of surface contamination. That part is real. But here is what the label will never tell you. Ammonia is what is called a volatile compound, which means it evaporates rapidly and aggressively, and as it evaporates off your windshield after you wipe it, it does not take all the contamination with it. What actually happens is the ammonia lifts the oily film slightly, thins it out, and then as it flashes off in seconds, it deposits that thinned film right back down onto the glass surface in microscopic, near invisible streaks that are perfectly positioned at exactly the right angle to catch oncoming headlights at night. You wiped your windshield. You rinsed the top layer off. and then the product redeposited the contamination in a worse, more optically disruptive pattern than it was before. You paid $15 for that privilege. And when the glare comes back worse than ever, what do? You go back to the store. You buy another bottle. You try a different brand, maybe one that costs $18 and has an even bolder streak-free guarantee. And the cycle continues indefinitely, funneling your money directly into the hands of companies that have zero financial incentive to sell you something that actually solves the problem permanently, because a permanently solved problem is a customer who never comes back. Subscribe right now. Hit that button immediately, because what we are building here is a community of car owners who have stopped being customers for corporate nonsense and started being mechanics of their own detailing process. Every video on this channel is built on the same principle, which is that the chemistry behind every expensive automotive product is almost always available for pennies in a different aisle of the same store. The detailing industry counts on you not knowing that. We are going to make sure you know everything. Now let us talk about what is actually on your windshield, because this is the part that most detailing channels skip, and it is the most important piece of the puzzle. The contamination causing your night glare is not just dust. It is not just rainwater. It is a specific compound called traffic film, and it is one of the most stubbornly adhesive substances your car will ever encounter. Traffic film is a cocktail of vaporized engine oil, diesel exhaust particulates, tire rubber microparticles, road tar volatiles, and atmospheric industrial pollutants that have been suspended in the air around you every single time you drive. Every time a diesel truck accelerates ahead of you, every time you sit in stop-and-go traffic, every time you drive on a highway at speed, your windshield is acting as a collection surface for all of that airborne contamination. The individual particles are microscopic. You cannot see them landing. But over hours and days of driving, they accumulate in the microscopic pores of your glass surface, and they bond there not just through adhesion, but through a low-level chemical bonding process driven by heat. Your windshield heats up significantly in direct sunlight. When that oily film is sitting on warm glass and then the glass cools at night, the film contracts slightly and locks itself into the surface texture of the glass at a deeper level than simple surface contamination. This is why simple wiping with a dry cloth does absolutely nothing. This is why water and paper towel leave streaks that somehow look worse. And this is why ammonia-based cleaners, despite their aggressive chemical reputation, fail to actually clear the film. Ammonia is a solvent, but it is a solvent designed to break ionic and polar bonds. Traffic film is a non-polar hydrocarbon compound, meaning it is an oil-based substance, and oil-based substances resist polar solvents. Ammonia does not break the bond. It just agitates the surface slightly and then evaporates, leaving behind a rearranged version of the same film you started with. Club soda works through an entirely different mechanism, and it is not a chemical one. It is a mechanical one. When you apply club soda to your windshield, the dissolved carbon dioxide gas that is kept in solution under pressure begins to come out of solution the moment it contacts the lower pressure environment of the open air against your glass. That gas comes out in the form of millions of tiny, rapidly expanding bubbles. And these bubbles do not just sit on the surface. They form directly against the glass, against the contamination, inside the microscopic texture of the surface, and as they expand, they generate tiny but real mechanical pressure in every direction outward. The force of a single expanding bubble is negligible. The force of millions of them, all expanding simultaneously across every square inch of your windshield, directed outward from the glass surface in all directions, is enough to physically dislodge the oil molecules that have bonded into the glass pores. The contamination does not dissolve. It does not get chemically altered. It gets physically ripped away from the surface by the mechanical energy of the expanding gas, and it floats up into the liquid layer of the club soda where it can be easily wiped away with a clean cloth. The glass is not streaked because there is no solvent redepositing anything. The water in club soda evaporates cleanly. The minerals in club soda leave no residue because they are in such low concentration. What you are left with is glass that is mechanically clean, with the contamination physically removed rather than redistributed. That is why when you look through club soda clean glass at night in the rain, there is no glare, there is no haze, there is just the road. Now let us properly dismantle the $15 blue bottle because there are two problems with it, and the second one is significantly worse than the first. The first problem is that it does not work, as we have just established in full technical detail. It fails at its primary function. It is a solvent that is chemically incompatible with the type of contamination it is supposed to remove, and it leaves your windshield in a worse optical condition than before application. That alone should be enough to put it on a shelf and never buy it again. But the second problem is that while it is failing to clean your glass, it is actively destroying something else inside your car. If you have aftermarket window tint on any of your windows, including your rear windshield, your side windows, or any privacy film applied to your vehicle, ammonia is a direct chemical threat to that tint. Window tint films are made of polyester with a dye layer embedded between laminate layers, and the adhesive that bonds that film to your glass is specifically incompatible with ammonia. When ammonia vapor or liquid contacts window tint, it begins breaking down the adhesive layer first. You will not see it immediately. The initial signs are subtle: a slight haziness near the edge of the tint, a faint purple or blue discoloration in certain lighting, small lifting bubbles near the corners or along the top edge. These symptoms are irreversible. Once ammonia has started attacking the adhesive, the degradation continues even after the ammonia is gone because the adhesive bond has been compromised at a molecular level, and it will continue to fail over time. Eventually, and sometimes very quickly, depending on how much exposure has occurred, the tint begins to purple significantly, peel from the edges, develop large air bubbles across the surface, and become such a distortion of vision that it is both aesthetically ruined and potentially a road safety hazard. A full rear window tint replacement can cost between $150 and $400 depending on your vehicle and your region. A side window tint job costs additional money on top of that. You are paying $15 repeatedly for a product that is silently destroying a tinting investment that cost you potentially hundreds of dollars. And the tint damage does not happen dramatically or obviously enough for most people to connect the two events. They blame the tint shop, they blame the brand of film, they buy a warranty claim that covers defects but not chemical damage. Meanwhile, they reach for the blue bottle again to clean the hazy, purpling tint that the blue bottle created. It is a masterclass in profitable incompetence. Here is exactly how you switch to the $1 solution and never look back. You need 1 bottle of plain club soda, also labeled as plain seltzer water, and a clean waffle-weave microfiber towel. That is the entire kit. Do not use a standard flat microfiber or a cotton terry towel. The waffle-weave texture matters because it creates small pockets that trap the lifted contamination and carry it away from the glass surface, rather than dragging it back across the glass as you wipe. Start by misting the club soda generously across the full surface of the windshield. Do not wipe immediately. Let the carbonation work for a minimum of 5 seconds. You will actually see the bubbling action on the glass surface, especially in low light. That fizzing you are watching is the physical cleaning mechanism in action. After 5 seconds, take your waffle-weave towel and buff the surface in overlapping circular motions, starting from the top of the glass and working down. Use moderate pressure, not hard scrubbing pressure. You are not trying to force contamination off with mechanical friction. The bubbles already did that work. You are just collecting what has been lifted. Flip or refold your towel frequently to ensure you are always wiping with a clean surface. A single pass with a saturated section of towel will redeposit contamination just like any other method. After the first wipe down, do a second light misting and a final buff with a completely fresh section of towel. The glass should immediately look different. In daylight, it will appear completely clear with no visible haze or fogging. At night, under lights, it will be fully transparent with no scatter, no glare, no smearing of oncoming light sources. Now, the critical warning, and this is not optional information, this is a safety critical fact that you must absorb completely before you attempt this method. You must verify with absolute certainty that the bottle you are purchasing is plain club soda or plain seltzer water. Check the ingredients. It should read carbonated water and possibly sodium bicarbonate or potassium sulfate in trace amounts. That is it. What you must never use is tonic water. Tonic water is a carbonated beverage that contains quinine, and more importantly, it contains dissolved sugars. Clear sodas like lemon-lime carbonated drinks also contain sugar. Any carbonated liquid that contains sugar is a catastrophic risk on your windshield. When you spray a sugar-containing liquid onto glass that has been heated by sun exposure or engine warmth, and in virtually all driving conditions your windshield is at least slightly warm, the sugar begins to caramelize. The evaporation process that carries away clean water from club soda instead concentrates the sugar solution into an increasingly dense, increasingly viscous film as the water evaporates faster than the sugar can dissipate. What is left behind is a thin but incredibly tenacious caramelized sugar resin that is bonded to the glass surface with a strength that dramatically exceeds traffic film. This is not something you can wipe off. It is not something that additional spray will dissolve. This sugar resin bonds to glass at high temperature in a way that requires aggressive mechanical removal and potentially professional glass restoration to fully address. And it does not stay on the glass alone. The moment your windshield temperature drops or rain hits, the resin becomes partially tacky again, and when your wiper blades sweep across that surface, the rubber blade drags through the sticky resin layer, grinding grit into the rubber edge, smearing a brown amber streak across your entire windshield with every sweep, and destroying the wiping edge of the blade in a matter of seconds. Wiper blades are not expensive individually, but this scenario requires immediate replacement and professional glass cleaning, which completely eliminates every cost benefit this method provides, and then some. Do not use tonic water, do not use clear soda, do not use sparkling juice. Check the ingredient label. Buy plain, buy unflavored, buy unsweetened. If there is any doubt, put it back on the shelf and find the bottle that says nothing but carbonated water. The investment profile here is almost insultingly simple. $15 bottle of blue ammonia water, ineffective against traffic film, chemically incompatible with nonpolar hydrocarbons, actively hostile to window tint adhesive, redeposits film in optically disruptive microstreaks, causes the exact dangerous night driving glare it is marketed to prevent, needs to be repurchased repeatedly as the cycle of ineffective cleaning continues. $1 bottle of plain club soda mechanically removes traffic film through physical effervescent action, zero chemical residue, zero tint damage, zero redeposition, leaves glass at genuine optical clarity. One application lasts significantly longer because the contamination has been genuinely removed rather than rearranged. The night driving difference is not subtle. This is not a marginal improvement in clarity. This is the difference between a windshield that exists and a windshield that disappears. When your glass is genuinely free of traffic film, when there is no oily layer to scatter incoming light, oncoming headlights pass through the glass instead of bouncing around inside the contamination layer. You see the road, you see the lane markings, you see the pedestrian at the edge of the lane. The light does what it is supposed to do and goes to your eyes as information rather than exploding into a blinding whitewash of scattered photons. That is the actual function of a clean windshield, and it is a function that $15 blue bottles have been preventing while taking your money and your safety simultaneously. Right now, before you close this video, before you forget about this and reach for the same blue bottle out of habit next time you are in the auto parts store, do one thing. Send this video to someone in your family or your circle of friends who has ever mentioned having trouble seeing clearly while driving at night. You know exactly who that person is. Maybe it is a parent who drives home late from work. Maybe it is a friend who complained about night driving on a recent road trip. Maybe it is a sibling who just got their license. Send this to them right now. Not because it is a cool trick, because night driving vision is a direct safety issue, and the difference between a windshield coated in ammonia redistributed traffic film and one cleaned with carbonated water is a difference that can matter in the 2 seconds it takes for a car to come around a wet bend at 11 at night. $1, one bottle, complete clarity. Every person in your life who drives at night deserves to know this.